Hello, good people of the internet. Virat Kohli recently did a very candid interview with Star Sports talking about one of his very memorable innings from last year when he took India to a very improbable victory against Pakistan in Melbourne around last year's Diwali. So the interview is also termed the Diwali miracle. If you are a cricket fan, if you understand Hindi, you should definitely consider checking out that interview because I think it's one of his best interviews. If either of these conditions are not met for you, or if you're on this video already, make sure you stick with me till the end because what I wanted to do in this video was talk about 4 life lessons that I would personally want everyone to derive from that interview. So even if you're not a cricket fan or you do not understand Hindi, make sure you check out this video because the life lessons that I will share are not centered around cricket. They are life lessons that you can apply to your day-to-day lives and that you can inspire your loved ones to apply to their day-to-day lives. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The first and foremost life lesson that I would want you to derive from that interview is about handling pressure. Sometimes the situation in front of us, the end goal in front of us is so huge and so overwhelming that we are forced to be in the present moment and do whatever needs to be done just now without thinking too much about the end line. And that is what happened with Virat Kohli in that particular innings. The interviewer actually talks about how at one point of time the win probability of India was, I think, close to 3%. That is how hard it was for India to win from that particular situation. And Kohli describes very well how he was almost forced into just being in the present moment and just doing whatever needs to be done right now without thinking too much about the finish line. And I think that is a very valuable life lesson for all of us. In a lot of situations where we are overwhelmed with whatever task is there in front of us, whatever mountain of end goals are there in front of us, all we need to do is something that we really just forget. What we need to do is sit back, relax, take a deep breath, and focus on whatever needs to be done in the present moment, whatever needs to be done right now. Of course, with the objective of the finish line in mind, but sometimes you can't even see the finish line. So you do whatever needs to be done with that finish line in mind, but not worrying too much about whether or not this will lead to that finish line. Because sometimes it is so far away from you that if you worry too much about whether that end goal will ever be reached, you will hamper your present moment action itself. And that is it. That is the life lesson. So, whenever the situation overwhelms you, sit back, relax, take a deep breath, and do whatever needs to be done in the present moment. And there is something Virat Kohli says in this interview that I particularly love. He says, if there is a lot of pressure in the entire situation, if you think that you can crack under that pressure, it's also very likely that the opposition might crack. So, again, what you need to do is hold on to your horses, make sure that you are relaxed, make sure that you are doing what needs to be done in the present moment, and that's it. Life lesson number 2 from that interview is something that is very close to my heart, and that is how you cannot think your way out of some situations. Now, Virat Kohli in that interview, he very beautifully says that he cannot really claim whatever happened on that day because there was so much pressure at one point of time that he says that his brain had almost shut off and he was almost just naturally flowing with whatever was happening. He he says that he cannot claim it because he wasn't thinking about what to do. He let his intuition take over. He, in his own words, he says, I just let whatever higher powers there are take over. And I was just being in the moment and I knew that this is all I have to do. Now, what happens here is what I want you to derive from this is that in a lot of our life situations, this is what we really need to do. We need to be courageous in the sense that we need to trust our intuition. We need to be natural as we can be, and do whatever feels natural in that moment instead of thinking too much about all the different permutations and combinations and the probabilities, etc. Because a lot of times we tend to impose our will on the situation while situations could be such that you cannot change them by your own will, and therefore in such situations you have to surrender to the will of the situation itself. And that is what happened with Virat Kohli in that particular game. He says that there was one point where there was so much pressure that he could feel that there is absolutely nothing that my brain can do anymore to impose and change the situation. And that is where he says very beautifully that I cannot claim that situation. I cannot claim whatever happened there, because this is how we usually associate our normal selves with, right? We want our thinking minds, we imagine our thinking minds to be our complete self, while our thinking minds are just one part of ourself. That intuitive subconscious brain of ours is also our own self. And that is what was functioning for Virat Kohli in that moment. Now, that intuition is built over years of hard work and practice and dedication. So, in one manner of speaking, yes, he can claim it. But when he says that I cannot claim whatever happened on that day, this is what he means. He says that his thinking mind was not really thinking about what to do in that situation. And in one manner of speaking, he was only being natural with whatever needed to be done. And this applies to such a plethora of life situations that we find ourselves in a lot of times, wherein the only real solution is to just be natural with the situation, just be natural with whatever needs to be done in the moment. You could be thinking about, should I quit my job to pursue something that is really calling me out? Should I be moving countries to again maybe do something that I really want to do? Should I move in with my parents? Should I move away from my parents? Should I move into a new relationship, etc., etc.? There are so many situations in our lives where we think that we can think our way out of these situations, where we think that we can impose our will on the situation and move it accordingly. While what really needs to be done in a lot of these situations is to surrender to the situation, and surrender in the sense of being absolutely natural with whatever needs to be done. And it's almost funny that I've always interpreted this innings of Virat Kohli in this manner, that he was being absolutely natural with whatever needed to be done then. And whenever I would look at these different analysis from cricket experts of what happened on that day, there would be a lot of people who would be commenting on how this particular shot was the most courageous shot anyone has ever played. This was outrageous. Only Virat Kohli could have done it because he calculated that this is what he had to do, etc., etc. And while all of that is true from one manner of speaking, that is not the complete picture. What was really happening there was he had let his intuition take over. He had let himself be completely natural with whatever needed to be done then and there. And his natural self is that. His natural self is that calculating mind, in the sense of there's so much intuition already developed that he was naturally able to play that outrageous, courageous shot. And this is what happens with a lot of our situations also. A lot of times after we have done something that feels completely natural in the moment, and let's say it works out, there are always people who are related to us, who are well meaning, of course. They have all these crazy stories about how we were really courageous in that moment, how what we did was completely outrageous and no one else could have done it, etc., etc. And we kind of feel like imposters when these stories are being told, because what happened in that moment, we know that what we did was, it can be called courageous, but what we were really doing was doing whatever felt absolutely natural in that moment. And that is the life lesson that I want you to derive from this interview also. In a lot of situations, understand that you cannot think your way out of a situation. So surrender to the will of the situation, be as natural as you can in that situation, and let your intuition take over. The stories, the narratives will take care of themselves. Okay, so before we keep going, I want to make a request of you. Make sure that you like this video, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and make sure that you share this video with anyone who you think can derive a lot of these different life lessons from what I'm sharing. And also, if you want, share a comment down below and let me know what you are enjoying the most from this video. Let's keep going. The third life lesson that I want you to derive from this interview is again something that is very close to my heart. It's something that I keep telling a lot of my friends whenever we discuss these sports, especially during such matches, and that is to be in the moment and enjoy the moment. Now, in this particular match, also, I still remember, this was more than a year ago, but I still remember I was getting a lot of WhatsApp messages from my friends in all of the groups that we're in, because we discuss a lot of sports. And almost everyone was almost shouting at Virat Kohli and all the other players that, oh, they've done it again. They've succumbed to the pressure. They're all suckers. They're all losers. They're all chokers, etc. And I personally had to switch off my internet because I wanted to cut off that noise, because I wanted to be in the moment. I wanted to feel the moment. I wanted to enjoy the moment. Even if there was so much pressure around, these kinds of situations happen not quite often. And that is what we watch sport for, isn't it? So, no matter how hard it goes, no matter how improbable a victory from a particular situation seems, the life lesson that I want you to derive is, in the end, it is a sport. You should watch it to enjoy the sport. And always remember, like Virat Kohli also says in that interview, it's not over until it's over. So be in the moment, enjoy the feel of the moment, and regardless of whatever outcome comes out, regardless of whatever action needs to be taken to mend whatever wrong these players are doing, etc., in that particular moment, enjoy that moment. Be one with that moment. The fourth and final life lesson that I want you to derive from Virat Kohli in general, also, and also in general from all the different celebrities that we watch and interact about and think about, is how projection works. What I mean by projection is how we project our innermost emotions, our innermost psyche, and our innermost thinking on other people. Now, for example, everyone knows that there are so many different parts of our psyche that we ourselves are ashamed of. And therefore, when we look at maybe a celebrity whose actions depict just a hint of that thing that we are ashamed of in our own psyche, we project on that celebrity that this is 100% what this person is doing. And also, we are the first ones to condemn that action of that celebrity, because we want validation from our surroundings and we want validation from ourselves that this is a behavior that I condemn, and therefore this is a behavior that I should not be engaging in. I would not be engaging in. Now, what I mean to tell you is, for example, let's say for Virat Kohli, if in that particular situation India was already down and out and there was no way, there was very little way in which India could win, there could be a lot of people who are projecting that now what Virat will do is he'll play selfishly, he'll play very slowly, just gather 50, 60, 70 runs for himself so that his own average improves, and he will act very selfishly even though India will not win. Now, this is something that if you think that 100% this is what Virat Kohli was doing then and there, understand that it is how you think he is doing. It's not what he is doing. And therefore, your projection of this particular way of action is actually telling you that this is what you think should be done. Now, this is something that a lot of people do not really understand, but this is exactly how projection works. It happens in our day to day lives also. I personally know a lot of people who, in their office environment, let's say, let's consider a simple example. This person does not like to be his or her manager's puppet. And therefore, in an interaction with someone whose actions make him appear as if he is a manager's puppet, this person is going to go out of their way to condemn this particular action of being a manager's puppet. Now, what happens in this particular situation, why I'm talking about all of that, is not because I don't want you to be a manager's puppet. Of course, I don't want you to be, but we'll unpack that in a later video. What I want you to understand is that your relationships with other people, your interactions about other people, your interactions about celebrities, and about general actions are a mirror of your own thinking, are a mirror of your own psyche. It's like that quote, I forget what the exact quote was, but it was something to the tune of, you can tell much more about a person about not by understanding what he does, but by understanding what he thinks about other people. And that is it, because we project our innermost fears, our innermost shames on other people, especially on celebrities, because they're public figures and we can very easily do that. And therein lies the life lesson. We project our shame and our fears on other people. And if you become simply aware of this particular thing in action, the utility that you can derive from it will be that you'll be able to better extract the juice from the present situation. And that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about with regards to this particular thing in this video. Well, okay then. I think that's about everything that I wanted to talk about that interview in this video. I think I personally love Virat Kohli. I personally love how his consciousness is expanding and how he's leading himself to a bigger, better understanding of life as a whole, and is not too drawn away, or at least seems to not be too swayed away by all the different stories that people cook up about him, that experts cook up about him, or that his own mind cooks up about him. And I personally feel that a few years from now, after he has retired from cricket, he will be a big agent to drive the societal impact that we need more people to drive, because he has the charisma, he has a bigger, better understanding of life, and he has been through a lot of different situations that people just naturally respect. And therefore, I feel I personally have high hopes from Virat Kohli with regards to the societal impact that he will create in the years to come. I think that's about it. I think I've shared enough love on Virat Kohli for a single video. If I moved you enough, if you understand Hindi, by the way, you should consider checking out those complete interviews. It's a beautiful, candid interview, and I think you will definitely enjoy it. That's it. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the Unlearning Playground. Make sure you check out more of my content that would be appearing on your screen right now or from my channel homepage. That's about it. Until next time, peace out.